everybody, and welcome to Master Tape Theater. We are the world's first and only video podcast dedicated to the preservation of audience-recorded live videos. And I am, of course, your host, the one-man crime spree, the world champion of videos, and the man that's causing all of this, Roy Damm. And I am, of course, joined by my esteemed colleague, the Duke of Danzig, the Alpha Romeo, Eric the Ladies Fight for His Delight Lawton. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little beat up from the weekend. I saw Danzig and the Damned. It was a great show. I'm a little tired, but I'm feeling all right, man.
My only question is, did you film Danzig so that we can show it here on the network?
I did not film Danzig. I was too busy rocking out, having a good time, and I'm feeling it today.
I know it's been a long time since you've seen Danzig. I want to thank everybody for the overwhelming success we had last week. We had over 2,000 views on our show on the first 24 hours alone. And I just want to tell everybody we're going to continue to stay dedicated, bringing you the best shows every week. Eric, we actually had our very first viewer questions this week. I think you wanted to tell me about that.
Yeah, this one's from Dick Caffinia. He asks, Master Tape Network, can you describe the 3 times you were caught, and what bands were they? Also, he asks, how did you get caught?
Well, the first answer, I'll answer the last part of that question first. It wasn't really hard to catch me because I wasn't a big fan of hiding. I mean, of course I did at times hide, but really a lot of times when I did get caught, it was because I was just filming balls out with the camera right up to my face, not even looking down. The other part of the question, what were the 3 bands? It was Hole at the Palladium in 1994, a show that I really wish I could have got.
I bet.
Let's see. The second one was at a Duran Duran show at the University of San Diego. They played on a 91X bill where they had a whole bunch of bands playing and Duran Duran was the headliner. And I was literally on the last song, man. I mean, this was really when I very first started filming before I got sneaky. So I'm filming the show and, they come up and they tap me on the shoulder and that was the end of that. So that's one of the things that happened was that one. And the third one was Cheap Trick. And that was also at the Belly Up Tavern in Solana Beach, California, which is like a beach suburb of San Diego. So let's go back and tell the stories of what happened when I got caught. So one of the things I used to do later was I would always have a dummy tape. All of my other friends that taped shows, they would say, you've got to make sure that you take a dummy tape because if you ever get caught, you can pull a tape switch while the security's taking you out of the venue. So, just so happens that all 3 times that I got caught, I was just too cool to have the dummy tape.
Damn it.
So, let's start with the very first one was Courtney Love, Hole, 1994 at the Palladium. I literally had finished the entire concert. Like, I had it. It was done. Beautiful. Tripod, zooming in on the chick the whole time. So basically the lights come up and a security guy walks right in front of me and he just looks over his shoulder and he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I go, I'm videotaping the show. And he's like, you can't do that. So he starts, on his radio. Oh, yeah, we got a guy over here. He's got a video camera. So I'm just like, you fucking dick. So I take the tape out and I'm all, so you want this, right? This is what it's all about, right? He says, yeah. So I pull all the fucking tape out of it, wound it up, and chunked it at fucking Courtney Love and the band on my way out the door. That was the first time. The second time was a little bit crazier. It was the Duran Duran show at the University of San Diego. It was a 91X show. Can't remember the date. But I'm filming the show. I'm on the last song. I pretty much had the whole thing. This was actually, I'm doing this a little out of order. This was the very first time that I got caught. So guy comes up to me, taps me on the shoulder, takes me out. He's, you can't do that. It's, it's this and that. It's illegal. So I go, look, it's a rule, not a law, you idiot. So, he pretty much somehow gets the tape from me because the reason why I destroyed the tape later was because of this story. I always decided that if I ever got caught again, I was going to make sure nobody, if I wasn't getting that tape, Nobody was getting that tape. So the first time I got caught was the Duran Duran show. The guy takes my tape. He goes into a little trailer thing where the security guys are on the university campus. And he puts it into a locked drawer and shuts the thing and pretty much kicks me out of the venue. And they take a picture of me and tell me not to ever come back and do it again. So I go home, and I used to be a super vampire night owl kind of guy. So I go home and I'm pissed. First time I ever got caught. I wanted that tape so bad. So I go back to the University of San Diego campus, and I go to the venue security trailer, and I proceed to break into the university trailer for the security guards for Staff Pro for San Diego. And when I got into the room, the fucking tape was no longer in the drawer. So I got caught filming, performed breaking and entering over a bootleg. And then the next, literally just a couple weeks later, was when I got caught for the whole Courtney Love thing. So that was when I destroyed the tape, threw it up towards the stage and just walked out with my shit. There was no big showdown over that. So the last time I ever got caught was at the Belly Up Tavern. I actually filmed Rick Springfield, which you can see on the network from the very same location. So I'm filming. It's like a VIP section. You pay an extra $15. You're up in a little VIP loft, and I'm filming it, and I'm freaking out. I mean, I'm zooming in so close you can see fingers on fretboards. I'm like 10 feet from the band. Guy comes up about 3/4 away through the show, taps me on the shoulder, says, "Come with me." We go down to the front door. I'm already trying to pull the tape switch thing. I pull the tape out. I don't really have another tape to give him because every time So I pull the tape out, and I'm going to just like tell him, look, I didn't really have a tape in it. I was just pretending to tape so I could see the band up close. And so we get to the door. They're not buying any of this shit. So same exact thing. I take the tape. I go, you really want this, right? This is really going to make a big difference in your day. If this tape doesn't make it out of this club, you're going to be the big hero tonight, right? So I took it, wound up the tape, threw it out the front door into the street, and I said, tape still made it out of the fucking show tonight. See you later.
Nice.
And that was the 3 times I got caught and what happened. So, pretty good story there.
I agree. That's some crazy shit, man. I can't believe that you only got busted 3 times.
Well, I got much sneakier as I went along, man.
Right. Tell us, like, what's one of the craziest things you've ever done as a bootleg? What's one of the best things you've ever done?
Well, there's a lot of them, but probably Kiss Burbank 1995 is one of my biggest tales of bootleg, super stories. So basically Kiss started their convention tour in 1995. It started in Australia, and the tickets were $100 to get in. So at the time, that was a whole lot of money to pay to get in to see a band, and they had it, they had made it where you could come in and spend the whole day with the band, see their costumes, and you were allowed to bring cameras and video cameras, but you were not allowed to film the actual acoustic performance. You could film everything else but that. So the first videos that came out of Australia were just garbage. I mean, you couldn't even watch it. Some people attempted to film, and it's the backs of people's heads. So those tapes float over here. Before the Burbank convention ever happened, those tapes had floated over here. So I become obsessed with devising a way that I can film that acoustic performance and make sure that nothing is going to obstruct the view, and we're going to get a perfect performance. So I had actually concocted a bag that was going to hold the camera, and when you took off a little piece on the front, it would have a little lens exposed, and you would be able to film the band. And I was going to use my wife's purse, and so I made this whole entire crazy contraption. But just so happens that day, I went around. I filmed all the costumes. I filmed every question and answer with Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer. I filmed the question and answer sessions with Peter Criss. And so the question and answer session came for the Kiss portion of the event. And, the moment of truth is upon us. And, they're passing a mic around through the audience. So several things happen that day that are absolutely incredible. I mean, the power of the bootleg forces of nature that were surrounding and swirling in that room were just unprecedented, man. So what happened was they're passing a mic around, and, people are asking typical questions. Oh, I love the band, and, thank you so much. And the crowd's cheering, and, it's a lot of fun and everything. But again, I'm starting to freak out. I know that the acoustic performance is about to start, and I'm trying to devise where I'm going to be and all of that. But all of a sudden it clicks in my head, and I envision Kiss Unmasked, the album cover. And what basically happened is there's a piece on the album cover of Kiss Unmasked where it says, "You always say you'll give the fans what you want. Show them your faces." And there's a little cartoon of Ace Frehley, and he says, "Put down the camera and we'll do it." So that races through my head. So literally on the spot, the mic is going around the room. And I think to myself, we're in a room with roughly 500 to 1,000 of Kiss's biggest fans. Every story is getting more bombastic than the one before. And, the crowd's cheering and they're all excited. So it just occurs to me that if we were to ask Gene and Paul in front of all of those fans to let us film the show, that they would literally have no choice but to let us film the show, or they would literally look like the biggest assholes on the planet. So I had concocted a plan to put them on the spot, and it paid off bigger than I could have ever imagined. So I was with my first wife at the time, and she was sitting right in front of the camera. So the mic's coming around the room. So I grab her and I'm like, "Hun, I need you to go up when that microphone comes over here, and I need you to tell them this, and I need you to say it just like this for me." And I go, "I want you to look at Gene and Paul, and I want you to say, 'You always say you'll give the fans what you want. And if you want to give the fans what they want tonight, then you will let us film the acoustic show. You will make everybody sit down, and then we will be able to keep this forever.'" So she gets up, the mic comes around. Now, right before the mic comes around to her, there's a guy, and he gets up and he's like, "You guys influenced my whole life, and I want to thank you so much. Thank you, Gene Simmons. Thank you, Paul Stanley." So the whole crowd's got a lot of energy going, and I'm like, this is amazing. So it's her turn. She gets on the mic next, okay? Crowds kind of dies down a little. She gets on, delivers the line exactly as I asked her to do. And I'm going to show the clip right now.
Awesome.
So we after this guy, give Joey Buttafuoco the mic so he can...
If we let you ask a question, will you promise to be good?
Hold on. All I have to say is, my name is Robert Saxton. I'm a drummer, and I hope someday that I will play for Kiss. I know I will. Eric is the baddest. All the Kisses are great. I want to say one thing, that Gene was right. That we knew that something was going to happen, and we knew it was bad, and we hung in. It was tough. It was Kiss. We're there. We're here. It's happening now. Yes! All I gotta say is, if it wasn't for you guys, I'd have never made it. You guys got me through everything. Thank you. Thank you, Paul Stanley. Thank you, Gene Simmons. Thank you all.
Back here by the soundboard, straight back behind you. I want to know, you're so into pleasing your fans. You want to please your fans.
I hear the tone of this.
Have everybody sit down for the acoustic set and let us videotape it.
That doesn't sound so unreasonable. Should we let them tape the acoustic demo? Yeah. Okay, but likewise, if you want to keep talking about how much you love us, don't go out and sell it. Hi guys, I come from Rio de Janeiro.
So she gets up and she asks the question. She gets on the mic. She's like, "You always say you'll give the fans what you want, whatever they want. Gina Paul look at each other, and Paul's all, I don't know if I like the tone of this. And so Gina and Paul are looking at each other, and then she hits him with it. If you want to make these fans happy tonight, you let us film the show. You make sure everybody sits down, because I wanted to make sure nobody would obstruct the view. So also, I just happened to know that Peter Criss was going to come up there and play with him that night. So I was a little excited about that. I had actually been the night before to the sound check and hung out with Gene and Paul, and they used to call me San Diego. They didn't know me by name, but they knew me on sight. So I always kind of had a weird inkling that Gene kind of knew that I was doing something with videos, because he even said a couple of times to me, did it come out good last night? And I was like, So basically, the mic comes around, she asks them, they look at each other, and he says, I don't like the tone of this. And then they look at each other, and Paul says, okay, well, if you love us as much as we love you, then you just make sure that you don't sell it. So the first thing on this guy's mind is that he might lose $1, but nonetheless, we decide that we're going to, we got him, dude. So right as she says it, I start cheering. Yeah, the whole crowd goes crazy, and basically from that one idea that came out of my head, that allowed every single acoustic performance to be taped for the rest of the tour. So now let's talk about one more moment that night. A guy gets up out of the audience and he says to Paul Stanley, I just got this CD. It's called Wicked Lester Sessions, and it has all of your early recordings. So Paul's all like, let me see that. So he grabs the CD and he says, this is really just tapes that are copies of tapes, and this is really just bullshit. And when Kiss puts out their box set, then you should just save your money, because we'll be able to give you the best of everything. He says, it really just sounds like the Chipmunks. And so the guy basically says, but I love it. And he says, well, then you probably love the Chipmunks too. And he's fully disparaging bootlegs, okay? So little did he know that night he disparages bootlegs, gets tricked into allowing bootlegs to happen by being put on the spot. And then in the very same night, this is where the story gets really awesome.
The report, Joe Alvino.
Well, I want to tell you I have the privilege to kiss the night goodbye every night and kiss the week goodbye with the 3-song Kiss block. But anyway, I was in a record store not too long ago, and I came across on Capricorn Records, Kiss, the Wicked Lester Sessions. Partridge Family, maybe?
It was on Capricorn?
Capricorn Records, yeah.
I don't think so.
It had about 9 songs, and then it had about 5 demo versions of some of the.
What this is, you should really save your money until we put the real deal out. What this is are tapes. They're copies of copies of copies of copies of some of the early stuff that we did. It sounds more like the Chipmunks now. Wait till we put the real thing out. A lot of this stuff isn't Wicked Lester. There's a few of them on here. When the box set comes out that we're working on, it's going to be unlike anything that anybody's done. It would be real easy for us to get a pretty box and put out the same songs that you've gotten on a whole lot of albums. Right now we have demos of Love Gun. We have demos of things that Gene did with Joe Perry, playing some stuff with the Van Halen brothers. There's all kinds of really cool stuff that's going to be included. There may even be a video in the box set. So save your money. This kind of stuff, it's bullshit. If you like it, what? You like it? You probably like the Chipmunks too.
So I filmed the show. Peter Criss comes out at about the hour and 10-minute mark. And they come out and they play Hard Luck Woman, okay? So what this was not just a guest appearance. What this was essentially the biggest moment in history. It was what I consider to be, a major piece of the story of the reunion, because basically when that happened, the fans freaked out. Kiss saw what happened, and that piece of footage became very, very important. So, I film the show and I go home, and it's incredible. It looks like pro-shot MTV shit, the sound sounds like a soundboard. The video looks like MTV. So I immediately make 2 copies of it on Super VHS for Gene and Paul. And the very next week, I had intended to go to the Phoenix convention, which was the very next week. So I go to the convention, I hang out with Kiss, I film the show. So at the end of the show, they signed autographs for everyone. And when I came up, I had some airbrushed t-shirts for Gene and Paul. One of them is a t-shirt that they actually wore on one of their home videos. It was done by a really famous airbrush artist guy. So I give them the t-shirts and I give them the videotapes. And so Gene and Paul immediately hand them to Tommy Thayer, who at that time was really just their road manager / go-to guy for operating the convention. So they hand everything off to Tommy. And I honestly think that from that moment on, Kiss never saw that footage again, okay? So, I give Gene and Paul the t-shirts, and literally when I came up on stage, they stopped the whole thing. They moved the crowd back because I was covered in Kiss tattoos. And I'm in the Kisstory book, and my name appears in the Kisstory book. And I mean, I met Kiss when it was free. I'll never be as cool as the meet and greet guys that get to pay $500 and stuff, but, But I met Kiss when it was free, and you could really hang out with Kiss and actually get to know them. I mean, Gene and Paul treated me like family, man. So anyway, flash forward, a little while later, Kiss puts out Kiss Unplugged home video, the MTV home video.
Right.
And on that video, I get a call at like 3 a.m, and it's a friend of mine named John Trains, and he's flipping his shit. He's like, dude, they used your footage on the home video. Oh my God, you're not going to believe this. So I'm flipping out. I run over to this guy's house. We're watching it. I'm excited. Oh my God, I made Kisstory. I created this piece of footage. Finally, I'm validated. Everything, my life's work and how much I love Kiss is all there, for the whole world to see. So I go at the end and I look for my name on the credits, because on the tape I had put, filmed by Roy Damm and my phone number and a way to contact me in case they wanted to, but when the credits rolled, I was shocked and amazed to see that my name didn't appear on the credits, and it said, all additional footage filmed by Tommy Thayer.
Damn.
So, again, I'm only a little bit upset, I'm like, oh, I don't care, man. I just love that. So flash forward to Kiss 1996. I'm in Houston, Texas, hanging out with a friend of mine named Jesse Dryden. His father is the drummer of Jefferson Airplane. And he was a guy who got me into computers and taught me a lot about things, man, because I had kind of an innocence up until I was way too old to not know about copyrights and how these things work. I just thought that this was something that fans did. Okay, so come to find out, I tell Jesse that they used my footage and that I didn't get credit. So Jesse's mom is an entertainment lawyer. So he calls his mom up and he says, they used this, used his footage and didn't give him credit. So she gets me on the phone and she says, you could be entitled to a piece of every single one of those videos that they sold because they didn't ask for your permission, and you own image rights for that because you filmed it, and you would be entitled to a lot of money. So I'm actually on the road in Houston filming Kiss, man. So I'm young, I'm dumb. I say to her right there on the spot, I go, I'm never gonna sue Kiss. I can't. I mean, I love Kiss. They're like my family. I mean, they were Gene Simmons was like a father figure to me at this point, okay? So I didn't sue Kiss, and I didn't do anything about it. So more time goes by, and, I'm more into filming Kiss than I've ever been, but I start to learn about legalities more and problems and how this all really works and everything. So the Second Coming DVD comes out, and I was one of the first guys in the world to get into DVDs, and that'll all be in the story next week. But so I'm watching the Kiss Second Coming video, and holy shit, there it is again. Kiss Burbank, 1995. a major moment in history that just you cannot tell the story of Kiss's reunion without my footage, right? So again, I'm validated. I'm like, yes. Again, the credits roll, same exact thing. All additional footages by Tommy Thayer. So I go, okay, that's cool, man. I don't care. I love Kiss, man. I'll never sue Kiss. I love them. A little bit more time goes by. VH1 does a special, VH1 Behind the Makeup. And there it is. They tell every year, 73, 74, so they get to 1995, bam! VH1 uses my footage on their Kiss special, which actually wasn't Kiss because it's actually VH1. Come to find out, I could still sue VH1 to this day over that. They didn't just use it in the VH1 Behind the Makeup. They also used it in When 70s Kiss Ruled the World and like every single special that they did. So, again, I don't care. I love Kiss. Never going to sue Kiss. All I care is that they love me and I love them and we are one. And I'm buying that shit hook, line, and sinker. So the Kiss 2000 tour rolls around. And I'm there. I go to Phoenix, Arizona to film. And there I am. I'm up on the lawn. I've got my camera. I've got my tripod. And when Kiss gets ready to go on, they actually have a video that plays on the screen. Shows them coming out to the stage with Doc McGee. They also show a history piece where, in 1973, 1974, dude, sure as shit. They get to 1995. Burbank on the screen, the whole crowd screaming for it. They're showing my footage of Kiss and Peter Criss doing Hard Luck Woman, and I'm just like, holy shit, now my footage is on their tour. So again, I was just feeling validated, but I really wanted my credit. I just always wish that everybody knew that was my footage. There's no mistaking that's my footage, and that I had the Hi-8 masters to that. So I guess the moral of the story is that if we talk about Burbank, all in one night, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley were denouncing bootlegs, forced to face bootlegs, and forced to face the fact that bootlegs is what made that band. So that's the truth, man. And that's what happened between me and Kiss, and that's what started the ball rolling. And then the story gets a little more interesting on the next episode because I actually did go and talk to not one, not two, not three, but 5 different lawyers about it. I was told exactly how much I would be able to get and all of that kind of stuff because at that point in time, me and Gene Simmons had decided that we weren't happy with one another anymore. I wasn't happy with the direction Kiss was going in as a fan, and I guess he decided that he didn't like the direction that I was going in as a fan either. So that's going to be on next week's show when we tell everybody the big story, the one they want to know about, when they want to find out about Roy Damm, Kiss Vision, and the one that got away. Because I'm going to tell you, if you think this week's story was enlightening, next week's story is really going to tell you something. Next week's story is going to make your goddamn toes curl. So I digress. That was my greatest bootleg story, Eric. Fuck breaking and entering for a Duran Duran videotape.
Awesome.
So right now what I want to do is I want to take everybody to our very first guest. I recently had the pleasure of sitting down and reconnecting with Willy Salas. Willy Salas is one of the most important bootleggers that has ever lived. He filmed almost 1,000 shows in the Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi area. He filmed Kiss. I mean, literally every band you can think of. Pop culture events. The name of his channel is Will Salas Symbol Maker. We're going to have a description right down in the links below. And this is our very first guest. The founding members of the network sit down, Willy Salas and Roy Damm, and we discuss Metallica, Kiss, the history of bootlegs, the way we got our stuff in, and we basically just shoot the shit for a half an hour. Let's catch up right now with me and Willy Salas and our very first guest. Let's go. Right now I have the pleasure of introducing our very first guest to Master Tape Theater. This is Willy Salas. Willy is one of the most important filmers, one of the original founders of the network. He has filmed over 1,000 shows in the Florida area. His YouTube channel is one of the biggest that I've ever seen. There are literally hundreds upon hundreds of shows every type of music you can think of. The name of the channel is Will Salas Cymbal Maker. We're going to have a link right down in the description. Willie, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you? Good to be here. Real pleasure.
Cool, man. It's been a long time. Me and Willie used to do a lot of stuff back in the mid-90s, and we recently reconnected. But my first question is, Willie, what was the very first audience-recorded bootleg that you ever saw? How did you become aware of the fact that things were even filmed from the audience? Just tell me a little bit about how you got started, and then let's talk about the very first show you did after that.
In the 70s, I worked at a record store that was a mom and pop. They had 2 stores on Dixie Highway, one in front of University of Miami and another one in front of down the street from South Miami Hospital, both off the same highway, South Dixie Highway. And there was a shopping center a block away from me, which had a very famous stereo store called Sound Advice, but they also had another record store there called Viscount Records. And a friend of mine, Larry, that is now a lawyer in New York, he was studying law down here, and we would talk shop about records and what he was into and what I was into. And he had mentioned that he had just recorded something, and he was really into Frank Zappa, but he had just recorded something with his audio recorder, and it didn't hit, and I'm just like going, "What? You did what?" I said, "Yeah, I took my stereo recorder into the show and I recorded it," and it just all of a sudden it just this fire through my my neural connectors in my body. It's just like I immediately went to Sound Advice, bought myself a stereo a professional stereo recorder that was portable from Sony and a 1-point condenser microphone.
What year would this have been?
76, 77?
76, 77. So it started with audio for you.
Yeah, I mean, within a year, I'd moved up to the KD2 JVC. What do you call this? With the binaural headset. In fact, I still have the KD2. Check this for cool.
Wow.
See?
And there it is.
Here
so
you can hang the belt around you, right?
You used that monster to record shows. How did you sleep that?
And the microphone. And see, you could open it up and you could still see, right? And and nobody could touch or mess up with these things. And then I had VU meters.
Oh my God. How did you get that into the shows?
Everybody was worried about cameras. They weren't. Yeah, they'd tell them, "What is that? It's a recorder." Okay, go in.
Okay, so wow.
And I had a headphone set that's binaural, reproduces an ear, a mathematically perfect ear, has an eardrum where your eardrum would be inside the ear canal. It has condenser microphones. So if you keep your head facing the music, it's recording everything around you, 360, like you're in a ball. So if you put your headphones on when you're playing back, you actually close your eyes and you're actually in the show. It's the most amazing thing in the world. And those were $300 for those headphones, microphone headphones. The only equivalent was, I think, the Neumann or the Sennheiser, which was back then it was about $7,000 or $8,000.
Amazing. So you started out doing audios, but when was the very first time that you saw a video bootleg? Was it shot on 7mm or 8? I'm sorry, Super 8. Was it a?
I have somewhere here
bootleg?
a copy of a videotape that I did. Let me see on this format, which was the Who in Orlando in '82. There's pro shot of it out there, but these would hold 30 minutes. I couldn't afford the at the time because I'd spent $2,600 on the camera. I couldn't afford at the time the VHS recorder. So
Right.
I had this recorder with these things that don't exist anymore. It's called Technicolor.
So when I'm sorry. So you said 1982 was the very first.
1982. I mean, I was taping a few things with my camera back then. The most famous one that I did, one of them was the Pretenders at Sunrise Musical Theater, which was an amazing show.
Wow.
And the other one is the Who in Orlando.
Cool. I mean, are those formats still? I mean, can you still play those tapes? Is there any way to transfer them? Have they been digitized?
On a VHS.
Right.
I still have the originals of those, but really to align that thing and to get it going, it's really hard.
Wow.
But I have a VHS copy that I'll have to send you of the actual Who.
Yeah, man, we'll have to get a hold of that. We'll definitely have to get a hold of that as soon as possible.
Yeah, and somewhere I have my Pretenders, like from 81 or 82 at Sunrise Musical Theater. Now,
one of the things that I noticed about your channel was that you didn't just film bands. You actually filmed a lot of pop culture moments. Like I actually saw that you recorded a boxing match with Mickey Rourke. I want to say it was around 1990. I mean,
that was some kid at the local Sound Warehouse had tickets, and what happened was that was his graduation night. So he said he couldn't go because he had tickets, but graduation was at the same time. You know, one of those type of events. He asked me would I go and make him a tape, and I said sure. So I showed up, sold one of the tickets, or both of them. I sold one of them, and instead of videotaping from ringside, I went up and I videotaped, the fight. Otherwise, right. I wouldn't have been there because it wouldn't have even entered my mind to really go to the show. If you go through like Jackson, Mississippi, Little Rock. A lot of those places are cookie cutter, exactly the same, that somebody must have gone around convincing, the town, hey, I can build an indoor space for you to hold events or whatever, because they were all basically the same. I remember once I was in the Hot in the Shade tour seeing Kiss in Little Rock at the T.H. Barton Coliseum in Little Rock. And after the show, I was talking to some old geezer that was from the area outside. I guess he worked at the event center. And he had to because he had information I didn't know about. And I told him, I've been following this tour, and this is the only time on the whole tour that they didn't use pyrotechnics. And I said, I don't know what happened. He said, well, pyrotechnics aren't allowed in here at the Coliseum. And I said, really? Why? He said, well, a long time ago, a band had some pyrotechnics and set the insulation on fire. I said, really? When was that? He said, it was in like 77. What band was it? He said, Kiss.
So how did you end up doing so many shows on the Hot in the Shade tour? I mean, I noticed that you had shot somewhere in the neighborhood of 7, 10, maybe more. I mean, so what made you decide to follow that tour? I really liked the album,
and I had nothing better to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically did all the shows from here to Oklahoma City.
Right. I've seen every one of those, and everyone's really cool because you're always in a different location. So around that period, say 90, what was it like getting into the arenas? Did you go through a lot of trouble at that time getting everything in? I mean, how did you? What was
since
your
I had
technique?
the TR-101, what I did is I would put it with a most powerful milliamp battery already connected, and maybe an extra battery between my legs and inside 2 underwear. And I might take maybe, some tape to go around me just so it stayed put and it wouldn't, sideways like this, just so it would just stay tight and it wouldn't, just go down. And then I would wear pants that were made for somebody taller than me and bigger and baggier, and I'd wear them kind of low. Then I always took other things to take their attention off of me on my person. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like if I'd have keys on me, I still have change going around everywhere. So they just get sick of me, and get in.
Right. Let me tell you what I used to do. I used to do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So I had many different techniques, but this was one of my favorite things to do. When I would have to sneak things in that period, the searches were, usually here's the thing. I'm a big guy. Even back then, I weighed somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 pounds. So security guys don't want to touch fat people, plain and simple. So, so I would always come up, and usually what I would do is I would go into the building with absolutely nothing on me. And this worked a million times. I would go in, go to my seat, check out the spot, make sure I liked it. Then I would go back down, find a supervisor security guy. And I would tell him, I would be like, I have asthma and I left my inhaler in the car. So then, and they would always go crazy because on your ticket, it would always say, you cannot get back in here under any circumstances. So I would have to convince them of this, that I needed this inhaler. And if I didn't get out there, and I would start to hold my chest and hyperventilate the whole 9 yards. So the supervisor guy would be like, okay. And they'd take me over to the door and I'd go out to the car and then I would pack up all my shit. And they would be like, I'll be waiting right here at this door, and you don't have to go through the line. You just come back right here, show me your inhaler, and I'll let you right in. So I would go out to the car, pack all my gear up, grab a fake inhaler that I clearly didn't need, go back to the door. The security supervisor guy would literally greet me at the door. Are you okay? Is everything all right, man? Let me back in, walk me to my seat, and then I'd be like, you are so good. I'd pat him on the back, tell him what a great job he's doing, how his parents are going to be proud of him, and you've really made the area secure tonight, sir. Thank you so much. And then I would proceed to destroy that arena with my camera like I owned the place. I mean, I would literally bring Circuit City into a concert in my pants. There were times when I would bring 2 cameras, 2 tripods, 2 different mics in case something wasn't working that night. So, I mean, we went the extra mile sometimes, but yeah, I mean, have you got any interesting stories or weird ways that you got in so that you didn't have to go through the security?
Yeah, I pulled that at Orlando Arena once. I told them that I needed my medication, all right? And that if, and I said, well, you can't go out, this, that, and the other. I said, okay, that's fine, all right? When I go haywire in there, right? Just remember that I asked you, because I had forgotten. I think if in my independent recollection was I forgot my 2x. What do you call it?
Lens. Telephoto lens. Yeah, the zoom lens. Yep. So one of the most important things that you've done is your work with the band Metallica. So everybody knows that Metallica sort of became infatuated with bootlegs. They put out a video called Cliff 'Em All where they had to basically use videotapes of footage that fans had filmed of Cliff Burton because, of course, once again, without bootleggers and the history that we created, it would have all been gone. So Metallica calls on fans to do that. So how did you meet Metallica and become involved with them? Because I know that you filmed, it seems as if you filmed somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 plus Metallica shows. So how did you get involved with Metallica and how did you go on to film so many shows? Tell me a little bit about it, the interactions and things that happened with them.
Well, the first show that I did of Metallica was set up by the guy who put Cliff 'Em All together, which was Otto Weyer of Detroit. And Otto was offered, copyrights for Cliff 'Em All for having put everything together. And he turned it down and wanted all the money basically to be given, to Cliff's family. Now, Otto... Oh, well,
that's great. I've never heard that. That's absolutely awesome, dude. So this guy, Otto, who is one of, not to mention, not only did he do that for Cliff's family, but he is maybe one of the best filmers of the period. I mean, I know he did David Lee Roth from 1986. He did Kiss Detroit 1985. I mean, my God, he did so many shows that are huge. How did you meet him? I know I'm sorry to cut you off, but you met him through the Metallica thing.
I knew Otto through most likely maybe 1 or 2, 3 people I would say, hey man, can you connect me with this guy? How do I connect with him? Because I had heard stories about Otto before. And then I connected with Otto. And, he said he wanted to copy the tape. I said, there's no problem. Just hook it up for me. And he told me how to hook it up. So I bought a ticket for the show. And I was able to get a taper's ticket and get in. And then after the show, he told me to go talk to Big Mick and tell him who I was. So Big Mick basically gave me a pass and to go backstage. And then, I went backstage, told him who I was, friend of Otto's. And I had brought, I think, maybe some videotapes to give them. I'm not sure. And they hooked me up for passes for the next shows. So I went home and just started running on all my machines, tons and tons of tapes, just, because I had just racks of machines. So I'd be copying tapes like crazy. So I must have gone with about 100 tapes to Jacksonville. They went apeshit, because, think about it. They're going from show to show. They can't just basically stop what they're doing and go to a concert and enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're getting to see what's happening, that year, a few years before.
So let me wait a minute. Let me get this straight. So you greased Metallica with a bunch of bootleg concerts of bands that they loved to sort of get them to be endeared to you and give you passes. Is that how it happened?
Man, I used to make tapes for people. People used to come by here. I'd throw 20, 30 tapes at them. They'd give me blanks,
So let's get back to Metallica. So you walked into Metallica with a big box full of bootlegs and said, "Here, like, how did that happen? What happened when they got
Well, I left them in my car. I went to the show and I videotaped them, and I asked permission to be able to go out to the car to grab some tapes. And I brought them in, and they were, walking by. I think the first person who walked by was Kirk. That he was like grabbing so much, and Kirk only weighs like a feather, He was just grabbing tapes, and taking them. But they had like this big entertainment center that was in a road case that they could open up, and it had a TV, cassette, CD, VHS, that type of stuff. And goodness gracious, even their washer and dryers were in road cases. But they would just stick stuff in there if they got a CD or something that they were listening to and wanted to listen to, but while they were rehearsing or after the show, it would be in the dressing room.
So you give Metallica a big box full of videotapes. What were some of the bands that you gave them, just for example?
I really don't remember, but I know that later, a lot of the things that they were into was blues stuff, certain odd metal type things, and Stevie Ray Vaughan. James was crazy, absolutely crazy about Leonard Skinner. So I gave him one day in the Charlevoix, Michigan, at the castle. I gave him a Leonard Skinner Rebel Flag Tour of the Survivors. And I bought that at a flea market down the street from a guy that was selling stuff, because all that swag was worthless after they crashed.
Wow.
Okay. And that thing, I could have sold it back then for buco bucks. And James told me later that he put it over his pool table. But those guys were really, really nice and very, how would you say this? Really dedicated compared to like other musicians that I've seen and hung out with. I'm not going to mention names, but they really worked hard at their craft, and they were incredibly nice to people. I saw Metallica do things that other people would have called the media up on, and just to get free, photo ops and publicity.
They've always been well known for, taking care of their fans, secret shows, things like that. So speaking, I know that you recorded a lot.
Sick children that are going to die, tons of them.
Yeah,
Okay?
I've actually, this is
Everything that they
they
wanted.
don't look for that
Even
publicity. They
if
just
the child was too sick, they would actually fly to be by the bedside. I mean, this is stuff you don't hear about. You know what I'm saying?
It's incredible, man.
Yes. I mean, they were
So
very,
like I said, they
very
always take care of their fans. They did secret club shows. You actually recorded a lot of Metallica's secret.
Oh,
club.
they were on my ass that night. Okay, I mean, I was upstairs in the balcony, and anytime they would come up the balcony, I was in the middle, and they'd start looking at me, and I'd start going like this and stretching, and they don't see any camera. When Gary is to my right with a T-shirt over it, in between the banister, looking down, at the band.
So this would have been the Slims shows that they did?
I mean, that was, how would you say this? The Alliance for Progress.
So that would have been the Slim show then?
Yeah, both of the Slim shows. In fact, I had Spencer Dryden call me that night. I think it was the first night because he wanted his son to get in.
Right.
And so I got his son into the show and then back home and everything.
My God, that night, you're telling me Jesse Dryden, the long-lost...
No, Spencer.
I know, but I'm saying he called you. So the guy from Jefferson Starship calls you to get his son Jesse in.
Airplane.
Jefferson Airplane. I'm so sorry. So Jefferson Airplane. So he gets Jesse Dryden in, which many people don't know. He is the long-lost bootlegger who filmed a handful of really important shows in the Houston area, but he's long since been lost. So it was you, Gary the Shadow, and Willy from Florida, all in the same room with Metallica and a bunch of video cameras. I mean, this was a hotbed for bootleg activity that night, man.
Well, it was just the only camera that was there was my camera, and Gary was filming it.
Right. So he was taking the heat for you. You got it.
I actually know that Jamie, a kid from Louisiana, was there doing digital audio tape.
Right. So I see the big award back behind you. How did that come to pass? Did you continue to go on with Metallica? And also, didn't you have something to do with their home video, that 2 VHS set with a year and a half in the life, or 2.5 years, or whatever that was?
I don't think so. I know that some of my footage was used on a Smashing Pumpkins, but the thing is, I didn't give Gooch their manager, not the Gooch I didn't put a name on the thing, but they did use it on their first home video. But what happened was that I was at a show, and Kirk was just really, I mean, burning. I mean, he's written probably the 2 or 3 best lead breaks of the top 10 lead breaks of all, rock and roll as far as I'm concerned, But he was just really excited about his playing, and he was playing incredibly. And he came back after the show, and he was all hyped up, and we were in a big backstage dressing room area, and he looked at me and goes, "Man, I'm playing so good because of you, because of those videotapes. I get to see all this stuff and all this." And one of the road guys behind me just rolled his eyes, and he goes, and he opens his wallet and goes, "Man, I know that you don't have any money. I want to give you some money so you could make, And I go, "Dude, I ain't taking your money, okay? You got to take it, And I go, no, I ain't taking your money." I refuse to take any money from him. So I'm on the road, and I get called home every once in a while, because abuela, my grandma, my mom, would always want to know, where I was and everything. But so she goes, "You have a big box here." I go, "What are you talking about?" So I get home, and there's a huge box from a company called Ill Eagle that does all the RAA awards and awards for people and all that stuff, So he put it down as, let me see, Willy IE. It's Willy with a Y, The Anthrax one, I mean, it's, William. that Charlie sent me.
So you're on the road shooting boots. You call home to mom, and she's all, "Oh, by the way, Metallica sent a giant RIAA award to the house." I mean,
No,
did
she
you
told me
shit
there was
your
a big
pants?
box.
What
She
happened?
didn't know what it was, but they used to call over to the house every once in a while. And talk to the kids and tell them to contact me or whatever. They would, I would get calls every once in a while. The kids would pick them up. I mean, my phone bills back then, this is middle 90s. They were $500 a month, but it's the only way I could communicate.
Yeah, I mean, people have no idea because of the new digital age and just, I mean, back in the day, I can remember I would be on the road and I would have to stop and use a payphone. And Jesse Dryden, the kid you just mentioned, he actually gave me a little device that would you could click it and it would tell you, it would make the phone think that you gave it change. So, I mean, we were booting concerts, getting free phone calls.
That was the phone freak system.
Yeah. I mean, it was an incredible thing, man. It was actually made with like a garage door opener, and it would make like the tones of the coins falling into the machine. So if you would just put it up to the mouthpiece, you could click on it. So I mean, when I'd be on the tour with Manson and stuff, I'd just jump out of the car anywhere in the country and run up and click the little thing, and I could talk to anybody for hours. So
what if you put too many coins in when you finish the call? Would you get quarters back?
I never tried that. What was I thinking? So
yeah,
I used to call you from an IHOP restaurant in San Diego, California. It was actually, cell phones were starting to come around more, but you could still find plenty of pay phones and stuff. But yeah, I would have to go there because not all of the phones would work. They were starting to catch on to the coin trick. But I would always go to this one IHOP and call you, and we would talk about, what did you do this week? Oh, I'm going here, I'm going there. I'm working with Marilyn Manson. So,
well, I used
whoa, and there it is. Me and Willy Salas, two of the original founding members of the network, sitting down to exchange stories. Next week, we're going to talk about more with Metallica. We're going to tell some stories about Willie and Dr. John. We're going to talk more about the shows that he filmed and his involvement with Marilyn Manson. And we're going to talk a little bit more about my involvement with Marilyn Manson. So that's pretty much a little sneak peek of what we're going to be doing next week, Eric.
Pretty cool, man. I always thought Kurt was the coolest one with Metallica. It's far out what he did for Willie. I mean, with all the bootlegs and all that. I mean, you could tell that it really changed things for him.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Metallica had become infatuated with bootlegs when they did the Cliff 'Em All video, which we talked about in Willie's interview. But, they just became aware of, like, the importance of it. I mean, there are a lot of bands out there. The Grateful Dead, Dave Matthews, the Black Crowes, the Rolling Stones. These are all bands that are incredibly taper friendly. And then you've got the other side of the coin. You got guys that only care about the money, like we talked about earlier. You got guys like Glenn Danzig who freak out and think that it stole a piece of their soul or something. But, really the bottom line is simple, that without bootleggers and the history that we created, the miles we laid down, the roads we drove, and the stories we now tell, there would be no underground history of rock and roll. Bands like Kiss needed us, and they will continue to need us until the day they quit breathing. So I'd like to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you for a great week last week. We hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Roy Damm. This is Eric Lawton, and we'll be back next week. It's party time, yeah! Be sure to like and subscribe on the channel. Also, support the work we do on Patreon, find us on Facebook, and follow us